Test.
Hello and welcome everybody back to another Tuesday AMA PPC. I'm your host, PPC expert Matt Davis, running the My Amazon Guide podcast today on a Tuesday. Thanks for sticking with me. I'm a little bit under the weather here, but I'm going to get to all your questions. Everything PPC you need to know before the holiday. This will be our last podcast before the Christmas holiday, as you guys are no doubt aware. The 25th and the 26th is the Christmas holiday, and the agency will be closed along with most of the rest of the country. Before we get into today's questions, I did just want to respond to a question seeker from last week that managed to stump me. I didn't have an answer off the top. The question was how, strategies for doing a product launch using SD, sponsored display, VCPM targeting. And I didn't really have much input to say because I hadn't seen enough case studies. And so I didn't feel comfortable giving sort of a recommendation one way or the other. It bothered me the whole week. So I went back and ran through some of our campaigns here at the agency, some of Stephen Pope's campaign manager, and sort of tooled around and just, put some data in front of my face and saw what I could learn. Right. And that's, I think, generally, you guys, there's this idea that with Amazon, right, you have to have an expert and the expert's going to know everything. There's so much information. It's constantly changing. Even us at agency, we have to constantly have our learner's cap on to learn new things because there's constant new information coming. So thanks for your patience on that, guys. So back to the question, right, which again was for a product launch for a new a new product. What are some tips to start with sponsored display VCPM type? Which you guys don't know what VCPM, I said last week, but I'll repeat it just so anybody who wasn't here. Right. That is viewable cost per 1,000 impressions, right? Cost per 1,000 viewable impressions, however you want to say that, right? But what it means is you're buying traffic share, and all someone has to do is they could have seen your ad, right? They're scrolling past it. They don't necessarily have to click on it, which most of Amazon ads is pay-per-click. So there's a couple. So knowing that right off the bat, right, it's going to have a propensity to spend a little bit more, right? Because the threshold to charging you is lower. I don't actually have to click on your ad. Now I just have to scroll past it, right? It is generally more of an awareness play, right? I know you guys have heard me talk about the different levels of the funnel. Awareness, we're talking top of funnel, right? So it's more designed to increase your awareness, increase your brand awareness on Amazon with maybe customers that didn't know who you were first, right? But as I mentioned, it has the propensity to spend, especially if it's a product launch, and especially, right, so it's a new product. There's not a lot of indexing yet. Amazon doesn't really know what you are exactly yet. So in a nutshell, right, the ability to overspend and to spend inefficiently is kind of rife when you start with that. Understand that it's an awareness play, right? So the campaign is not really designed to be your best cost per acquisition. It's more designed to just kind of, right, build brand awareness, put your brand in front of their faces a half dozen times, right? So with the VCPM targeting, and you can do, by the way, sponsored display, you can still do traditional cost per click targeting. But the question was related to VCPM, right, which is cost per mil, which is viewable impressions. So when setting up the targeting, right, there's a couple ways you can do it. You can either do contextual targeting, which is like look back audiences kind of, right? Like, oh, someone who shopped for similar products in the last 30 days. That's an example of a contextual target audience, right? And then there's also, it's the double-edged sword of SD. It's what I like the most about sponsored display campaign types, and it's also what is most dangerous, right? And that's interest layering, which is the other type of targeting, right? Which is now and that's more what you see in the wider internet, right? Like traditional, like Google Ads, right? Your D2C Shopify page, whatever. It's far more common on the wider net to be VCPM or CPM targeting. Not that that's the only thing, but it's PPC is much more prevalent on Amazon because Amazon is a website where everybody's coming for one purpose and they're already very high intention, right? Everybody who goes to Amazon is going for one reason, to buy something. They probably already have in mind what they want to buy. They're just looking to comparison shop, right? So that's why PPC tends to be a more effective model. And that's why a cost per acquisition in Amazon is so much better than most other places, every other place for my money. Even these days, I know TikTok Shop and Facebook's making a comeback and all that. For my money, the best cost per acquisition anywhere on the internet is still on Amazon. Okay, I'm diverging, as those who know me know I'm prone to do. So with interest layering, right? I wouldn't do that just off the top if you didn't know. If you have your own website, or you've been running Google Ads, or you've been running Facebook ads before, and so because of that, you've already seen data in other platforms, and you have a sense of like, okay, these interests, like this is who my consumer is. I feel comfortable with that. Great. I would either not do that if I didn't have that information. I wouldn't try interest layering, or I would control my variables very strictly, right? Maybe only target one interest. That's typically what when newbies get in with a sponsored display campaign, it's one of the most common screw ups I see is they try and layer a bunch of different interest targeting, or they try and layer a bunch of different things together. And right, they're all variables that are prone to spending. And so what I would say is, especially in the beginning with SD VCPM, limit either how much you're willing to pay for your 1,000 viewable impressions, or you have to limit the number of things you're targeting, either one contextual targeting or one interest, and then monitor it closely. And then if it does well, you can expand out. But I would be very careful right out of the gate with those, because if it's a new product, especially if it's a new product and Amazon doesn't really know what you are yet, the propensity to overspend is there. So I'm not saying don't do it. It is a top of funnel play, but just I would keep an eye on that campaign in the first week, probably more often than your SP broad manual campaign, right? So, okay, thank you. I hope I don't remember actually. I'll have to go back and look at the video who it was that actually asked that question. But I hope if you asked it last week, I hope you're here and you got to receive that answer. I was thinking about you all week. I don't like getting stumped on this podcast. Congratulations, you're the first one to ever see. You're the first one to ever do it. First time for everything. I appreciate you. Gauntlet has been thrown down, but the faculty has responded with vigor. All right, moving on. let's get to the questions from this week. Thank you guys for being patient with me there. Okay, Abdullah Khan. How are you, Abdullah? Good to see you back. Okay, Q4 sales is high. So that's typically true for most brands on Amazon, right? It's holiday shopping season. It's the time of year. After Q4 sales will go down much? Probably. Abdullah, probably. There's always exceptions, right? If you make garden hose, if you sell gardening tools, January might be an uptick period for you, right? Because the spring is coming and people are going to start buying stuff. So anything that has like a seasonal context might not fall under that, but 90% of products on Amazon, Abdullah, you're absolutely right. Q4, most Amazon sellers do more business, more top line in Q4 than the other 3 quarters combined. It's very common, right? From Black Friday to about a week before Christmas is the busiest online shopping holiday season of the year, right? Like, I don't think that's not a stretch. I'm not telling you guys anything you don't know. You already know with that, right? So, okay. So yes, you will, and that brings a good point, Abdullah. I generally think, again, there's product context specific reasons not to, but generally, like Christmas Eve, you should be going through all your ads and like bid reducing, budget reducing, a lot of stuff, because the traffic on January 6th is going to fall off a cliff. It just is, right? It makes sense, right? If you've done all your holiday shopping, if you're an American consumer, right, which is what we're talking about here, Amazon US, they've done their holiday shopping by, a couple days before Christmas, and then it doesn't really pick up again until late January. Is usually, that's when the spring stuff starts to come back in, and then you get the holidays, you get Valentine's Day, right? Mother's Day, that starts to tick things up. Okay, so the second part of that question, I have a few counts, which are not performing well due to review and limit PPC budget. Client doesn't want PPC budget, and it's a low price item. Well, so good news, bad news there, Abdullah. If it's not performing well, due to few reviews, not low reviews. Okay. Yeah, you're gonna need to, because PPC is the only way you're going to be able to generate more traffic in any sort of reasonable time frame, right? If you try and do the organic SEO route, it's going to take you 6 months, right, to start to build traffic. So if you've got a budget that is very tight and a low-priced item, those are typically big challenges to Amazon advertising, right? Because Amazon is going to have their 30 pieces of silver, right? Just for your fulfillment fees, your referral fees, your storage fees, right? So a lot of low-priced products end up paying like 40 or 50% of their net to Amazon fees, right? That they wouldn't have to shell out for on their own website or somewhere else they're selling on the internet, right? So I hate to keep beating a dead horse here, you guys. I feel like I'm teaching you guys the same stuff every week, but Abdullah asked the question, so this is my answer. Auto, wide net, gold pan, all 4 match types, stupid low bids. Stupid low. I had to come in and tell one of my guys at agency, because I had set up a gold pan and it was like, the bids were like 15 cents, 10 cents, 5 cents, 2 cents. And then my ad guy came in and like freaked out and thought that we were doing something wrong, right? I was like, no. So start at stupid low. You probably won't get impressions, right? And then what you want to do is bring it up each match type: close match, loose match, substitute, complement. Don't just wide net, right? The idea is you need to bring your cost per click stupid cheap so that you can still be profitable. And the way that you do that is you have to kind of sacrifice relevancy a little bit, right? Anybody at our agency last 2 months since I've been parroting these can tell you, like, I don't know exactly why it ends up being this way, but auto catch-alls, gold pans end up oftentimes, not even sometimes, oftentimes being the best performing campaigns in our arsenal, right? In terms of ACoS, high number of orders, low ACoS. I don't know why. I don't pretend to understand why the algorithm's getting so much smarter, but it works. I've just seen it enough times to believe that it works. So Abdullah, what I would say is, what you'll do with this, just try it, right? One auto campaign, all 4 match types, dump all your available products in. I don't care if one's pens and one is a coffee mug. They can have nothing to do with each other relevancy wise whatsoever. And you know that search term report generated by that campaign is going to be disgusting, right? It's going to be dirty. It's not going to be clean at all. That's okay, right? The beauty of an auto catch-all wide net is a gold pan, is what some people call it, right? Is it casts such a wide net that your average cost per click will often be much, much lower than the suggested bid. So that's why start stupid low. And if you get 0 impressions, tick it up 10 cents at a time on each match type until you start to get impressions at a rate that you're comfortable with, right? And you watch that cost per click, right? That cost per click needs to stay down. With a wide net catch-all, if your cost per click is even $1, you screwed up. You're not doing it right, right? So that's what I would try as a tactical thing. And then, you can try like filtered category campaigns, but what you're going to have to do, Abdullah, is find some cheap traffic, right? You need to build traffic. You need to build awareness, but with a small budget and with a low priced item, you just can't. That's probably not the type of account where you can be like, all right, I'm just going to set up one campaign type of everything, and that'll be great. No, you probably have to really limit the type of campaigns you use. They probably have to be right more with like the wide net, the gold panning types. Maybe you do a hero manual here or there with a few keyword targets or something like that. But you're going to have to be very stingy with sort of how you set it up, and that cost per click is everything, right? You need to gain traffic for cheap. So try that. See if it, come back. I would love to hear you come back next week and tell me, oh my God, Matt, my ACoS was 3% and I've generated 15 orders. Like, that'd be great. So hope that works for you. Hope that helps you. All right. Next question. Ryan Seeker says, hi, Ryan. I have a product that have both strength variations and size variations, 5% solution, 10% solution, and 32 ounce, 1 gallon of each. Currently, they are different listings. Okay. So that's the premise. Let's see what the question is. Question 1, should I combine them into one variation listing, or at least combine the 5% with the 5%, 10%, 10%, or is it better to have them all as separate listings? Yeah, that's a good question, Ryan. I think it kind of depends, right? So the advantage of having separate listings is if you're a newer seller, or you're not even a newer seller, your brand is newer, right? And you don't actually have that many products yet. That's a great way to occupy more real estate, right? You have separate listings. So now when someone searches, Ryan Seeker products, right? Whatever, 3 or 4 listings, separate listings are there and appear as separate listings on the Amazon page, right? So it gives you more sort of coverage. So in that case, right, if it's a new brand or a small number of SKUs, sometimes it makes sense to separate them out to sort of gain that wider footprint. Most of the time, Ryan, I favor parenting them. Swatches are just cleaner. I mean, it depends on how you put them together, right? I tend to favor more like, I like color and size. Like if it's a color size, for example, like I would have them one color swatch, size swatch. The reason being is, right, reviews, you want reviews, it'll all accumulate to the same listing. It'll be easier to find, right? You will have probably less drop off, especially at the CTR and conversion, like, sort of the bottom levels of the funnel. You'll have less drop off if it's all there on the same page versus if they're like, oh, I like this, but I wanted the 10%. And then they have to go navigate away to another page. There's a higher degree of probably customer fall off and loss if they have to go to another listing versus if it's just there on a swatch. So it depends a little bit on where you are, Ryan, but I would say generally, unless you're brand new and only have a couple SKUs, I favor parenting them together. But it's not really a right or wrong. It's just, what your objective is. All right. Question 2. What should I do about overlapping keywords for PPC? Great question. Do I treat them all as separate products, bid accordingly for ACoS profit ranking goals? Do you have any strategies? Yeah, so I've covered this a little bit, Ryan, but it makes sense to split them out if you can intuit that the search behavior that they'll use to find it is going to be slightly different, right? So you can have some overlap. Like if one is red pens and one is blue pens, are there enough of my customers that prefer blue over red or red over blue? And then in that case, it makes sense to separate them out and have like my own targeting strategy. If my customer doesn't give a flying F, right, then I don't need to, right? And you look at that by looking at the keyword data, right, the volume. If people aren't searching for red pen, then you don't need to split it out, if that makes sense. I typically won't even advertise on all products in my listings, right? I'll typically focus most of my budget on the heroes and then do like an A+ product grid or something like that to organically try and lift some of the lower performing products, right? I wouldn't worry too much about overlapping as long as you have them separated out in a different campaign, right? Because campaign is where the budget level is. The budget is controlled at the campaign level. So like if you were to have them in two different ad groups in the same campaign, for example, there'd be no way to decide which one you want more money to go to, right? So think of campaigns like a folder for your ads. And then, I like to use separate campaigns, single ad group, and portfolio, all my stuff, right? So you can test it, right? And like play with it a little bit, but if there's a hero listing child variant that has a specific detail that makes it right that people are searching for example, like if I'm selling charity wristbands and it's breast cancer awareness month, I'm separating out pink, right? Because I know that pink is going to have significant search volume on its own, and I want to capture that, right? But if not, right, if it was just like, no, we don't care, we don't care what color your wristbands are, then it doesn't matter, right? Because you can target red or blue individually, but if there's not a lot of keyword volume behind it, probably not going to help you that much. Anyway, good question. Hi, Matt. Hey, Leo. My main ASIN went out of stock 3 minutes ago for about a month. My ranking tanked. Yeah, it's not surprising. Really bad. I'm still having issues ranking even when my bids are high, over $2 bids, and barely get traction on some. Yeah, so when you look at your high bids, Leo, dig into that a little bit, right? Like, first of all, try never to go out of stock, right? For obvious reasons. Your listing goes inactive, your ranking tanks, it's going to raise your cost per acquisition, as you're seeing, right? It is. What I would say, though, is, are those bids not working because they're not garnering any impressions? Are they garnering impressions but not clicks? Are they garnering clicks but not orders? Right? So this is typically what I tell people, Leo, is you have to dig in to, like, when people say, oh, like my ads are not working. It's like, okay, well, that's like saying my car is not working. If I'm a mechanic, you got to give me, right? You got to get more specific than that. You got to give me a little more detail, right? So with ads, which level of the funnel is malfunctioning? It could be all of them, but there's typically one more than others, right? More than the others, right? So, are your bids high, but they're not working because you're still not getting impressions? That could indicate that for some reason you have an ad suppression, right? Are they getting impressions but not clicks? That means maybe you need to retarget, maybe you need a new main image, maybe you need to adjust your price, right? Excuse me. And then if it's conversion, figure out which behaviors you're not converting for and why, right? And then conversion can be almost anything, but that could be even how good your product is, everything from what you're targeting to how good your product is, right? So with that, you're having issues ranking even though your bids are high. What's the cost per click, right? Because when you say bids are high compared to what, right? What's your cost per click? The suggested bid's a little bit of an indicator, but really, what's your cost per click once it's been running? And are you getting impression share for those high bids or not? Because that'll lead you to what the problem is. And barely getting any traction on the same campaigns. Yeah, I think I covered that already. Okay, Leo, how would you implement video ads into your campaign? I have 90% exact keyword campaigns, 5% auto, 5% broad and phrase. That's a good question. I would say it depends on what kind of video ad, right? Video ads these days, it can be sponsored TV, it can be sponsored brand, it can be sponsored display. So get more specific, right? What campaign type are we talking about? But what I would say, sort of some high level generalities for your video, 15 to 30 seconds. Videos are usually more, depending on where you show them, are usually mid to top funnel play, right? More an awareness play versus an engagement, versus a conversion play. So I would say select your audiences very carefully and start with low bids and then see what it does. That would be my general, without knowing too much about what your product is and what campaign type and what ad type, right? What the video is like. I would say no more than 30 seconds. Finish with like a card that, like a logo that comes over, right? Something lifestyle somewhere in there, right? People enjoying your product, even if it's not necessary, it just converts better. Those are some high level tips, I would say, but it's going to depend on what kind of campaign type you're using. Good question. Hi, Luis. How do you recommend brands to approach sponsored display? Should I run certain campaigns on every SKU, like views, purchase, remarketing, and consideration campaigns on top performing SKUs? I mean, yeah, it's going to depend somewhat on your budget and how well they're doing for you, but I think that's as good a strategy as any, Luis. Honestly, I think that's pretty good. I wouldn't run on every SKU. Even purchase remarketing. It sounds like purchase remarketing is going to be a very high converting audience. It's just not always the case. So I wouldn't run them for every SKU, just the ones that show that they're gaining traction. And then, yeah, I mean, again, it's going to come down to your budget and do you feel that you're getting enough reach? There's a couple metrics we look at, right? Like ACoS, what's your top line doing month over month? But I would say generally, you don't need to run on every SKU. I typically spend most of my budget on my hero SKUs, and then if there are a couple stragglers that I really want to focus on, then maybe I give them some budget. But I think that's the common misconception, that you need to advertise on every single SKU, every single chide variant. This is not true, because you'll end up overlapping and you'll end up competing against yourself a lot, and it's just not necessary. You don't need that many campaign types. Okay. Great question. Hey, Leo, welcome back. If you have a main keyword giving you great results at 25% ACoS, would you increase the bid to boost your organic ranking? Yeah, I mean, potentially. So whether, again, Leo, look at your cost per click. That's going to determine if you're bidding, quote unquote, aggressively or conservatively. But yeah, if 25% ACoS is great for you, bidding more aggressively will get you more traffic, which means more chances to convert on orders, right? So if you're happy with the ACoS level right now, that is typically the play, is to raise your bid. Good question. Hey there he is. I was wondering how I was going to hear from you today. Hey, Karan. Good morning, good afternoon to you, sir. All right. Hey, Leo. How would you decrease the bids after Cyber Monday and December? It kind of depends on how big your account is, right? So if you have thousands of SKUs, you probably need to do a bulk update, right? And there's other videos on the My Amazon Guy YouTube page that talk about how to do bulk updates for PPC. I go through how to do bulk updates, pivot table, so you can check that out. If you have a smaller campaign, then you can just go through and, I would look at, all right, where am I getting clicks with low orders, or my cost per click is high, thus generating a high ACoS, right? Those would be the places that I'd look to reduce bids. Look at your traffic, right? Your impressions on the business report, the organic side. Look at your sessions, right? Most brands are going to see a fall off in traffic. So just something to consider in terms of how you do it, whether you do it, you could do it on the targeting tab too. There's a couple ways to do it in bulk, whether it's bulk sheets or doing one of the product tabs or whatever. It depends on how big your account is in terms of whether it's going to be feasible for you to go in there and manually lower bids versus bulk update. Great question. Hey, Karan, what do you make of campaigns that were doing very well in November, then in December, impressions fell off a cliff, cost per click went up, CTR went up, but clicks, impressions, sales, ACoS all tanked? Probably related to seasonal stuff. It's hard to say without knowing the product. Probably related to seasonal, unless you made some sort of bid adjustments. Now, did the impressions fall off a cliff or did they go to zero? Right? If they went to zero, that might be a hidden suppression, right? If they just, precipitously slowed in rate of acquisition, then, it might be traffic. You might have to fiddle with the bids. Again, look at your cost per click over the more recent time period, right? So last 7 days as opposed to last 30 days. yeah, you might also look for other reasons why that listing wasn't active for some reason, right? Whether it be a suppression, whether it be an out of stock, all those things, right? If CTR went up, that probably means you're still targeting well. Cost per click went up. That's probably competition on lower traffic. It's probably just a drop in traffic, but that's what you're going to want to sort of look at is if my bids didn't get adjusted, right? Look at the keyword volume maybe for some of the things you're searching, right? Is the volume still the same? Is there another competitor that came in and dumped loads of ad money, right? Figure out which level of the funnel is failing and then back into a solution from there. Hope that's helpful. From your experience, have you noticed that supplement brands tank in December? People are far more inclined for gift giving items. So yeah. I mean, generally speaking, supplements is a very challenging place, challenging field in general, challenging category. But yeah, I mean, just generally, people are right. If you go to your local gym like I do, Karan, December is the month where the gym gets empty, gets real empty, and then January it picks back up. So I would suspect that that's seasonal. People just aren't buying healthy supplements as much. Holiday season, they're buying cookies and stuff. That'd be my guess. But yeah, most supplement brands and then like yard work and stuff like that, stuff that's or like summer related stuff, all that typically tanks in December. Hi, Tina. Hello, Matt. I am running low on stock. Would it be best to raise the price or pause my PPC? So when I do it, I have about 190 stock left and it's selling around 8 to 10 a day Q4. Right. Okay. So you got about 3 weeks, give or take. I would either raise the price or pause my PPC or both. It depends on Tina how quickly you think you can replace that inventory, right? But it doesn't do you any good to spend and hurry up and go out of stock, right? So you don't need to pause your PPC. I would just drastically bid reduce, and then it depends kind of when you think you're going to be back in stock. But yeah, if it's like if I don't do this, I'm going to run out of stock. Do it. Don't run out of stock. Hey, drone. Is it better to target a variation listing as an individual product or add them as a variation to the keyword? I don't think there's a hard, fast answer. The isolating, like typically the way to do it to isolate and get better ACoS is to target the variation as an individual product. But again, it's like I was saying earlier, it depends on how much traffic there is for those individual features that is unique to that child variation. Yeah. So you can do it either way. Ultimately, let the data guide you. Typically, separating them out is the cleaner way to do it, but I've seen plenty of accounts where they don't do that and it still is successful. So. Dauda says, "Can you show on screen how you determine which product target you should keep or negate from the search terms of your campaign?" Yeah, I can do that for you. Let me present my screen for you here. Okay. Can y'all see? I'm going to presume that you can. Okay, so let's just go to our campaign manager here. And let me just jump back to this question to reread it because I'm an idiot. Keep or negate from the search terms in your campaign. Roger that. So it kind of depends on what kind of campaign you're doing. If you're doing a manual or an auto. Okay. I apologize, guys. Just got me navigating all over the place here. There we go. Okay. So we could take any of these really. Start with a broad, I guess. right, targeting. So with manual, you can also, you can also bid reduce, right, as opposed to negation. I always prefer bid reduction to negation, always. So unless there's like 0 orders and it's like just spending and you're not converting at all, then pause it. Or there's some other reason, right, you're discontinuing the product, but generally bid reduction is the way to go. Okay, if I could get it to load. Live TV, guys. There we are. Okay, so this is a single broad modify keyword. So I could adjust the bid here. If I wanted to do negations, I could go to the search term report. A little bit of this depends on your sale price, right? Because it's going to depend on how many clicks, right? In terms of whether you should negate it or not. And whereas like a $20 product, you only probably need 10 or 15 clicks. If it's like an $800 product, those clicks might be different. But for under $100, typically anywhere from like 10 to 20 clicks will let you know that it's you need to negate. Now, actually, these are doing okay, right? These are within the prescribed ACoS sort of boundaries that we're looking at, and we're getting orders. But let's just say this guy, Squatch Soap, had 17 clicks, right? I might negate this, right? And you click on it, add as a negative keyword, right? And then if later you wanted to decide that, hey, I was just kidding, you can find a negative keyword here and you can archive it. And to archive a negative keyword is like a double negative. It brings the word back, right? So same thing with an auto campaign. The only difference there is you can't, excuse me, you can't bid adjust individual keywords. You can bid adjust the targeting, and then you can do search on reports. So hope that helps. But typically, like I said, 10 to 20 clicks without an order, and that's when it's time to negate. Hope that was helpful. Hey, Drone, is it better to advertise a variation listing as an individual product or a variation? Single keyword exact campaign for a single product. But yeah, I mean, I would do it as an individual. If it's your hero, right? Single hero, which sounds like it is, single keyword exact campaign for a single product. The pros and cons are simple. Less traffic, but you'll convert at a higher percentage. Whereas if you lump them all together, more traffic, but you probably won't convert. Your ACoS will probably be higher, right? Your conversion will be lower. So those are the advantage, right? Typically, isolation and segmentation is how you, at the cost of maybe more traffic, that's how you improve your conversion, lower your ad costs. Good question. Hey, Karen. Since supplements, repeat purchase products have an ACoS that Amazon PPC doesn't account for, how can we calculate their true ACoS and let clients know this high ACoS in Amazon isn't accurate? I mean, that's kind of what ACoS is for, right? Because that will show you as a percentage of your overall revenue, right? So I think what you're saying here, Karan, is because it's like repeat purchases, right? They use the ad one time and then, or maybe they come back later and it's already beyond the time window. And so PPC is not capturing that as a PPC sale. That's why ACoS is because ACoS will show you what percentage of your spend as a total, right? Organic plus sponsored revenue. And then you can also look at cost per session. There's another one I like, right? Sessions is just your reach is an indication of your overall reach. And then how much you're spending on ads over time for those sessions will give you a sense of how much reach am I buying with my ads right now. Hope that's helpful. Tusher Hardia says, what's your advice when advertising on big catalog accounts, such as gemstone jewelry and sheet sets with lots of colors, designs, and variations? Find the heroes, find the hero variations, and focus on those. Again, you don't need to advertise on every single child variant unless they're all stellar products that sell really fast, but that's almost never the case, right? Focus on, it's classic 80-20 rule, Tushar, right? Focus on your biggest movers, your centers of gravity in terms of traffic, engagement, and sales, and that's where the majority of your budget should go. And then you can spread out from there, sort of piecemeal. All right. Ooh, a 3-parter. Drone moments. I have variation listings. At style variation listings, 80% of keywords are shared. They all do good as standalone and as variation. You said earlier benefit of the variation is reviews combined. Yeah, if you're on the same listing. Separated, I cover more real estate and sales are a bit higher. Not necessarily sales, drone, coverage, right? So if let me show you what I mean. Oops. Okay. Oh, come on. All right. So if I was going to search gift basket, right? What I mean by more coverage is if you've separated these listings out, these can be, right, they'll show up as separate listings here. Whereas if they're all parented, it'll just be one listing. So that's what I mean by real estate coverage is if you're a new brand without very many SKUs and you want to occupy more than one space on the search return pages, that's why you would split them, if that makes sense. Do you suggest keeping variation targets on the best style only? Right now, I'm targeting each product in the variation separately based. I mean, let the data guide you. Is it working? Right? If it's not, then right, I would double down on the ones that are and start to budget restrict the ones that aren't. And three-parter. A single keyword campaign, pro and cons, and suggestions how to optimize for profits. My ACoS is around break even now. Thank you. Single keyword campaign is already as isolated as you can make it. So that's already, from an ACoS perspective, trying to be as efficient as you can. The only thing you can adjust there, because you're already only targeting one thing, which is the fewest things you can target, is the level that you're bidding, right? So to improve ACoS, you might drop the bid. And again, to get a sense of whether you're bidding aggressively or conservatively, look at your cost per click. That will tell you over time. If you're above that, that means you're aggressive. If you're below that, that means you're conservative. Tina says, my product is in production right now overseas. If I run out of stock, do you recommend closing the listing? Do I have to start over if I run out? No, definitely don't close the listing. It'll just make it inactive. I would, again, right, already start reducing my PPC spend, maybe raising my price to sort of slow down that out of stock inevitability. But no, you don't need to close the listing. It'll automatically go inactive. Just make sure that you're not still spending money on it. And then once you get inventory back, then you can start running it again. Hey, Deoda, 1 out of 2. I'm having issues sorting my search term keywords. Main keywords is a phrase match, ACoS 60%, brings tons of other keywords, impressions, and clicks, but all are unique variation of the main keyword, and they all appear only once. Some have 1 sales and some have 0. My question is, what do I do with that main keyword? How do I determine if I should negate it as it brings me traffic and clicks? Yeah, I mean, profitability, right? Like if it's still bringing you traffic and clicks, maybe you can look at those search term reports and pull a few of those out that look more promising and create new campaigns for them, right? So they have their own budget. Bid reduction is the way to lower the cost. But yeah, I say this all the time. There's an intrinsic value to traffic and clicks. So it depends on how much that's costing you and is that tenable or not, right? Is that cost, can you swallow that cost in order to continue to garner that traffic, or is it getting expensive? Thank you. Good question. All right, Leo. How do you keep track of non-converting keywords? I.e., one of my execs spends $30 and no sales. I would drastically decrease the bids, but 3 months after, I might start increasing the bids for impressions. At that point, I wouldn't have remembered that keyword was just wasting the money. Well, so that's what your reports are for, right? So you can look back. What we do, Leo, is we download our ad backup every week, right? So you can pull that bulk sheet, and that will and I just save it, right? So then even if you go forward a year, 2 years, however long, right? I know PPC data sometimes only goes back like 65 days sometimes, right? But if you're downloading that report every week, then you can just go, okay, well, I know I wanted to adjust this. Like, what was it running in June? Well, let me go pull up my report from June and see. Great question. All right. No more questions on the docket right now. And if we don't have any more, I may call it early because, as we mentioned at the top of the call, I'm a little under the weather, guys. I can feel my head pounding, just kind of like feeling weak. You know how it goes. So I'll do a going once, going twice for more questions. And if there are none, oh, there we go. Tina. If my PPC is bringing me some sales when I'm low on stock, do you recommend to lower the bid? Yeah, because again, it does no good to spend you to hurry up to get out of stock, right? So like lowering the bids will slow your rate of sales, but if you're going to go out of stock, right, you're trying to delay that. So the fact that it's giving you sales, right, it's just speeding up the time to when you're out of stock, and biting into your margin, right? Yeah, it's increasing the velocity of sales, but sales velocity isn't really what you want when you're about to run out of stock, right? So yeah. Scott Poole, why is PPC and ACoS going up? I love that question, Scott. That's I always feel like most of these questions are nitty gritty in the weeds, which is great, right? These are professionals trying to service their own accounts, service their clients' accounts. So they want really technical in the weeds questions, and I love that. But occasionally I like a high level, like strategic sort of general concepts question, and that's what this is. Right? PPC and ACoS are going up in most places on Amazon for a couple reasons. More people shopping on Amazon than ever before equals more advertisers selling. So the competition is fiercer, right? It's a bid, it's an auction, right? So PPC is going up because there are more people bidding on those same behaviors than was bidding on them a year or 2 or 3 years ago, right? So that's why the cost of PPC is going up. And that's why ACoS could, as a reflection of that, could also go up because ACoS, right, has sort of a couple main variables that impact it, right? It's conversion rate, i.e., how many clicks do I need to get a sale, and cost per click. How much is each one of those clicks costing me relative to my sale price, right? So if my cost per click is going up, that will also raise my ACoS because even if I convert at the exact same percentage, those 5 clicks, if I convert at 20%, let's say, right, those 5 clicks cost me more than they used to. So my ACoS is higher, right? I have to spend more to get that same 5 clicks to generate that sale. But that's why, you need to find industry experts, professionals, or teach yourself, right? There's lots of free content available because it is, these days, Amazon advertising is the pros, baby. It's, it's the NBA. There's lots of really big, really serious players on Amazon. So if you just go into your campaign manager and start dartboarding, it's like going into a casino and just start fanning out your money. Like you're probably leaving the casino without, right? So you need to have a strategic and tactical plan. And then you let the data guide you, right? Like, again, we don't know everything. We're not mind readers or future seers or any of that. We just read the data and make informed choices based on what that data shows us. Good question. What reports, hi Seeb, what reports, CB, what reports should be pulling every week and what top 3 numbers should I be watching and why? I love that question. Search term report, advertised products report. I like the campaign report too because it's got the hourly breakdowns of like when you're selling the most. Advertised product will show you where your ads are going from a product breakdown perspective, and then keywords obviously is the search term report is which keywords and which search terms are you doing well for. Top 3 numbers I like for Amazon PPC in particular. Obviously, TACoS is a trailing indicator, but it's important, right? That is the percentage of your spend related to total revenue, organic plus sponsored. I also like cost per session. That will show you from an efficiency perspective how much reach you're buying with your ad spend. And then obviously, right, like cost per acquisition. I mean, at the end of the day, this is all about profit, right? So what's your total CPA and is it tenable? Is it going up, going down? Great question. All right. I'm going to run through my spiel here. I apologize for the shortened timeline, guys. Here, I'm just one of those things where you wake up and you're just like, man, I got hit by a truck today. That's kind of how I feel. So I'm struggling through it, but I appreciate you guys. Okay. Any other questions before I give you the spiel about my Amazon guy and coaching and all the things? Going once. Going twice. Sold. All right. Thank you guys so much for your time. Again, if you need coaching, go to myamazonguy.com/book-a-coaching-call. There it is. Thank you very much for bringing that up, Allie. Book with me, book with Stephen Pope, the Amazon guy himself, book with Francisco, Jason, any of our fantastic leadership team. They will get you right. I promise you, they are some of the most knowledgeable people, like whether it's a listing yank or PPC, whatever it is. They are fantastic. So if you need it, 30 minutes to solve a problem, check out coaching. Check out the My Amazon Guy YouTube page. Seriously, is a masterclass. You could be a top of your industry Amazon professional with no other education than the My Amazon Guy YouTube page. And I don't just say that because I'm hosting the My Amazon Guy podcast. I say that because Steven's content is a big part of what I used to build my expertise in this space. So you guys can certainly do it too. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Leo. I appreciate it. Yeah, gonna take some fluids and maybe lay down for a little bit. CB, go spiel. Appreciate it. I think that's Godspeed, maybe. Thank you. We're at the hour mark. Again, I apologize for the short call today, but we're out of questions, and Matt has a headache. So thank you guys so much. We will be off next Tuesday for the Christmas holiday. My Amazon Guy offices are closed the 25th, 26th. I will see you the following Tuesday in the new year for another fantastic episode of PPC AMA. I'm your host, Matt Davis. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time.